What's going on, everyone? So the Los Angeles Lakers clearly need another center, right? That's kind of like when you look at the roster, the one sort of hole and flaw that the Lakers have is another center. They want to move Anthony Davis to the four more, kind of get back to that 2020 type of play where 80 is at the four and then they have multiple bigs. That makes a lot of sense, right? Get bigger. They got a bunch of sizable wings now. They got guys out on the perimeter. They got shooting. They got everything you need. And there's lots of talks about Christian Wood, Bismack Biyombo, guys like that. Christian Wood would be great, right? Who knows? Maybe he does sign. There's plenty of reports that have came out that said if he just continues to get vet minimum contracts, then he's going to go to the Lakers and sign with the Lakers. Who knows? Maybe while you're watching this video, Christian Wood ends up getting signed. That would be great. If not, Bismack Biyombo or somebody, anybody, right? Just go get another center is the point. And even if they get, let's say best case scenario, let's say we do get Christian Wood, right? That would be awesome. But what do you do with that 15th roster spot? Now, there's several ways that you can approach this. You can go and bring in just like a vet guy, right? Kind of like what they did with like Rajon Rondo, right? Bring him in as just like a locker room guy, or Jared Dudley type guy, right? You bring a guy in that he's really not going to play, he's really not going to do anything, right? He's just a guy that's there to kind of be a locker room presence, be an extension of the coach. Maybe you bring in like a DeMarcus Cousins, a guy that can play if you need to, but kind of more as like that vocal leader, a veteran guy, kind of a bit of an enforcer type player. That's an approach. You also have the young route, right? Maybe you bring in one of the Summer League guys because you need to fill all 15 roster spots in order to have the three two-way players per the new CBA. So if the Lakers want to bring in, say, like a Hodge, who's been really good and has stood out in this summer league, maybe a Colin Castleton, something like that, they could absolutely do that. That could be a great approach as far as the Lakers maybe bringing in a guy like that. The other alternative, which in my opinion may be the best way to go about it, is bring somebody that is sort of a mixture, right? A guy that has potential upside that could really have an impact on the roster, but also can be a veteran presence if need be. And somebody that kind of came to mind, and again, it's just a thought. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this down in the comments section below. But what about like a Dion Waiters, right? So Dion Waiters has been working out for several teams and wants to get back to the NBA. And he said the whole reason, which is, in my opinion, I think it's true. He has said that the whole reason that he ended up falling out of the league was because of his character and was because of the way he conducted himself. He was a bad teammate. He just was arrogant. He was, he basically thought he was the dude. And the NBA very quickly humbled him and made him realize that he's not the dude. And we have seen plenty of people evolve into that. And even stars we've seen end up having to be humbled in order to get back in the league. I mean, Carmelo Anthony is a great example. Allen Iverson is another great example. Like if Allen Iverson would have just accepted a smaller role or a bench role or something like that, he probably had another 3+ years, but he still thought, I'm the guy, and ultimately he fell out of the league. Now, Dion Waiters, 6'3", 215 pounds, and look, I know many of you are probably thinking right now, oh, that's the last thing the Lakers need is another guard. Literally, he would be the smallest player on the roster. He's probably not going to play a bunch, but he's a guy that could be a vacuum scorer. If the Lakers, let's say, go get a Christian Wood or something like that, you basically have your roster at that point, right? You have a nice mix of youth and talent and size, right? You got everything you need out on the perimeter. The only other position that you can make an argument is lacking is that shooting guard position, right? You have Austin Reeves. Yes, you have Taurean Prince who could probably play that. You have Max Christie that maybe could earn some minutes. You have guys like Lewis and Shafino, but they're rookies. How much are you really going to rely on them? Again, maybe you bring in a Hodge. He's a rookie again. How much are you going to rely on him? D'Lo is able to switch there. So it's not a dying, desperate need, but it's not something that I think would hurt. And with your 15th roster spot, why not bring in a guy that has some real upside and could make an impact on the court and just be your Lou Williams or something like that. A guy that's humbled, can come in also with the experience that he has, right? This is a guy that has NBA experience. This is a guy that also went from being in the league to out of the league because of the way he conducted himself and his character issues. That could be a good example for the young guys. That could be a good leader for the young guys. A guy that can come in and say, hey, I've been there. I was a starter, on most nights for several teams back when I played with Cleveland and stuff. I was a guy that was putting up, 15 plus a night. His best year, he put up 16. He had 2 years where he put up just under 16, right? So he could be a guy that says hey, I was this dude. I was a scorer. I was a guy that people sought after. I was a guy that people wanted. And I took it for granted. I thought I was bigger for my Brit. Having a guy that can be a character guy, having a guy that can give these young guys some guidance and experience, I think is very valuable as well. A guy that is willing to come in, but a guy that can also play. But that's the real question. Can he play? The last team he was on also was the Lakers in the 2019-20 season, which I think is funny. He played 7 games for the Lakers. In those 7 games, he wasn't great. He wasn't. He did score 12 points per game. He did give the Lakers 12 points per game, 2.5 assists, a steal and a block. So he was solid on both sides, but shooting-wise, from the free throw line, he was 88%. But from 2-point range, he was 55.8%, 56%, which is good on 6 attempts. You're like, okay, where was he bad? It was a 3-point shooting. He took 4 attempts per game, and he shot 23.3%. But in his defense, it was the worst he's ever shot for his career. Now, he is for his career just a 35% three-point shooter on 4 attempts per game, but he has had multiple years where he shot 38% or better. He even had a year where he shot 40% with the Miami Heat on almost 5 attempts. So he is a guy that can shoot depending on the year, it looks like. But again, he's the 15th man. Bringing him in and allowing him to just maybe earn minutes or play for minutes or just play in spots, give him a chance on the roster, especially if he looks good in tryouts. He's a big body with a good lower center of gravity. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. So I don't hate the idea, right? Because your best bet with the 15th spot is to, if you can, get a low risk, high reward type player, right? That is what you want to see. Go get yourself a guy that, if he does play, could go off for 15 to 20 on any given night, right? Dion Waiters fits that. Be a guy that will accept and play his role. If he has a DMP, he's not going to complain. If he's playing 20 minutes, he's not going to complain. If he's whatever it is, he's not going to complain. Dion Waiters, at least, he says, seems to fit that role. A guy that can, in a pinch, be just a quality contributor on both sides of the ball. That's a guy that can. Again, Dion Waiters, at least from what he relayed, and granted, you never really know until you give him that chance, but he said himself, I was so irresponsible and mature, right? These are his words. It was my attitude. It was my character. That's when he was asked about his NBA exit, what caused him to end up leaving the league. Now, of course, there is some concern that he hasn't played in a couple years. But again, that's where it goes into the low risk, high reward type thing, right? This is a guy that also has a defensive rating of 109.4 for his career, which even with the Lakers, his last year with the Lakers, he had a 109.6. So if he can, league average is 115. So if he can even be around 115, just gives you another body, is my point. The way I look at it is what other options are there, right? You bring in a veteran guy regardless, but what kind of veteran guy you're bringing in, for one. 2, can that guy actually play and contribute? And 3, what's the fit, right? Does he buy in? Okay, if you can find somebody like that maybe is better suited than Dion Waiters, then fine, right? Because if the Lakers get another center, you don't really have another need, right? The Lakers are fine at point guard because they have D'Lo, you have Gabe Vincent, you have LeBron James who can play point guard if you need be. You have Austin Reeves who wants more point guard duties. Like I said, you got plenty of size out on the perimeter. You got plenty of defense, plenty of shooting, plenty of everything, right? And now you got plenty of centers and plenty of size. You still would have Colin Castleton on a two-way. So if, let's say Jackson Hayes or somebody ends up, end up missing significant time, you can just bring him up on a two-way. You literally wouldn't need anything. So why not go with a high upside type player? Why not go with a guy that maybe can give you 12 to 15 a game? He's a veteran guy. He's been in playoffs. He has experience. He's a guy that you could put in key moments and he's not going to mess up. He's going to play his role. What's the alternative? Like, yes, you could bring in a young guy, right? Like I said, you could bring in a Hodge or something like that. But the Lakers are trying to contend for an NBA championship this year. Lakers have plenty of youth. Plenty of youth. Their average roster age is what, 26? Something like that? Might even be younger than that now. So, like, the Lakers, it's not like the Lakers are filled with a bunch of old guys. The only old guy that they have is LeBron James. Even Anthony Davis is still young, right? So, I don't think, and Dion Waiters isn't 35. He's 31. So, he fits with the age range in which the Lakers are operating in. He's a guy that we know can score the basketball. That's been his whole shtick, right? Is a guy that can go and put the ball in the hoop, right? It just gives you another shot creator, another potential 3-level scorer. I actually kind of like the idea. I do. Because again, you're trying to go for an NBA championship. Yes, you could bring another young guy in, but is he ever going to play? And if he does, it's probably spot minutes. Like, why not have a guy that if you have to, worst case scenario, right? Knock on wood, say a couple injuries happen. And it's like, well, now what? Right? It's like, okay, well, now all we have is Hodge. Like, maybe he can do that, but he's a rookie. Or would you rather go with the guy that's like, oh, no, we got Dion Waiters on the bench who has plenty of NBA experience and can go give you 15 on any given night. I think that's not a bad approach. Again, the Lakers need a center. Absolutely. But if the 15th spot is Dion Waiters, I don't think that's a bad look. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree? Disagree with me? Somewhere in between? However you feel. Love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.